Welcome to Fiberchats. I can't thank you enough this year for spending your time with me as we participated in this year's Mystery Knit Along Twists and Turns by Stephen West. So here's my final surprise for you, my interview with Linda, Stephen's test knit coordinator, Stephen himself, as he shares his final thoughts about this year's MKAL, and of course, Martyn, the host of Knit 365 blog and my partner in crime this year. Well, let's talk about this mystery knit along. So to me, like I do a lot of test knitting, right? Mm-hmm. And I noticed that by the time I'm done with the test, I sort of already like, I'm done with this project, like out of hands.
Out of mind, out of sight.
Well, whatever, you get it, yeah. Right? So with this mystery knit along, did you feel like the fact that Martyn and I, through this collaboration, like people like us who made it like a little bit extra exciting for it, do you think it made a difference for you as a test knitter to get overexcited about it again?
I always get really excited about it. I don't know what it is. Like I said, for me, it's like my most favorite time of year. And for me, it starts earlier because of the test knitting. But I always love the sense of community and like people all over the world coming together. And you guys definitely helped making that even more present this year. And I know that Stephen and myself, we're very thankful of everything that you guys did during this time. I know it's a lot of work, right. You know.
Well, how did you approach this year, like with all the people trying to pick your brain as to like, what is it going to be? What shape is it going to be? What colors you're going to pick? Like, how difficult for you to like stay quiet about the whole thing?
It's not very difficult, I think. I mean, if I spoil it or like if I say something to anybody and it gets out, I'm in trouble. You know, it has to be a secret. And for me, and I think for most people, I mean, I know a lot of people have a little bit of difficulty with starting a design and not knowing what, you know, what they will have in the end. And I know they want like, oh, I want to know like a certain shape or like get an idea of some design elements, but then it's not a mystery, you know, it's a mystery knit along. And if you sign up to do it, you have to be able to, or you have to know that you're not going to know. You're not going to know until week 4 when you see the completed item, what it's going to be like. I mean, when we started with the center section, nobody knew what was going to happen after that.
Right.
So, yeah.
How did you react when Martyn was telling you about all his trouble?
With the different gauge, he sent me a message and he was like, "Can you see the difference?" And I was like, "Yes, I can," because it was very noticeable. And also, I was afraid that if he would just like plow through, he might run into some, like he wouldn't have enough yarn or something like that, because I knew I was coming later as well. And I knew there was more purling. So he would maybe, you know, get into a little bit of a trouble. But I had seen, like Ines, one of our test knitters, she did the second wing the same way that he did. She knitted all the rows. I don't have different tension with knitting and purling. They're about the same for me. But I know a lot of people have different tension. And I know some people just went down a needle size to like even it out a little bit.
Well, is that being discussed like when the test is run, right? And the testers run into issues like this when it's specific to the tester, it's not specific to the design. Mm-hmm. You guys discuss it with Stephen? Like, do you bring it to his attention and say, you know what, we think here might be an issue and maybe there should be alternative idea of how to do it?
No, not really, because it's very personal. I mean, you can't really cover every base. Like some people have, like I used to have issues with cables, and if I'm testing for Steven and if there's a cable, I can't be like, no, I'm not gonna do it. Or if I have a different type of tension or a different gauge, you just have to adjust to you. I mean, we can't hold everybody's hand through every single problem. We can give advice and say like, oh, we know of a tester who like revamped the pattern like Martyn ended up doing.
Right.
Or you can go down a needle size for your purling.
Well, how did you specifically changed in that process, right? Because this is your Kazilian's mystery knit along that you ran as a test knit coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
Did you become a different person into how you approach those issues? Like when people complain about something, how do you not feel that sense of like personal responsibility that like, oh, I should have told Steven to like write another sentence about it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's just like I said, it's so personal. And not being happy with how a design is written is a personal preference. Steven has a very specific way of writing his patterns.
Right.
I don't think he's going to change that anytime soon, so like a sentence there or not a sentence here, I don't think it's that much of an issue, and not like a test knitting issue. It's more of how he writes his patterns and how he wants them to come across. And I mean, some people want different wording or a little bit more explanation, but you also have to keep it kind of accessible and not, there can't be too many words because then it becomes a little bit too overwhelming, I think.
Right.
So we try to keep it as simple as possible, but still explain like all the steps, and then you have to execute them in the way that's best for you.
Well,
Do you know what I mean?
you use a lot of we when you talk about this process, right, of writing the pattern and like publishing the pattern. Do you feel the sense of pride when like people are super excited about design, or do you feel like the sense of like, oh my god, like I can't believe this is happening, when there's like people with all the drama of like, oh, I hate this, I'm not gonna do this, I'm like, it's waste of yarn and all these things? Like, do you feel personally like it's your baby as well?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a team effort. I mean, of course, Steven is like the mastermind behind all of it, and it's his thing, but there's a huge team of people behind him, and we all try to do the best we can to make the pattern as clear and as error-free as possible. Like both me and the tech editor and the test knitters and like everybody. It's like a big kind of smaller community behind the scenes. So yeah, I mean, I don't take it like super personally anymore, but still sometimes reading negative comments it's not fun, but
Right.
it happens. Like I said, you can't please everybody.
Well, I asked Steven that when I talked to him after our live with Martyn. I asked,
Mm-hmm.
like, when you read a really negative comment, does it hurt your feelings? And he said, yeah, like a little bit. Do you get the same thing? Like, do you get upset by like really negative comments out there?
It depends on the comment. I mean, of course, if it's just like, oh, I'm not happy with this, I'm just gonna frog and do something else, that's fine. It's your knitting, you do you. But when people are like, oh, it's a disaster, and like they're like tearing it down and being like super super negative and like really personal, it's just, I think it's unnecessary, because like I said, some people love the design and some people don't.
Right.
And that's a personal thing. It's not like I said, in our life, I think as soon as Steven and like any designer starts designing, oh, I'm gonna design only a design that everybody in the world is going to like. Like, what is that design? It doesn't exist.
Right.
And I think if you're designing for like to please other people instead of doing what your heart tells you to do, you're becoming kind of a sellout. I think, I mean, I've only done one design, and I mean, not everybody loves that design. It's fine. Not everybody loves stranded color work, but it's a personal thing, I think. And I think even though Stephen like puts out a lot of patterns, I think each and every one is a little baby, you know.
Yeah.
So
You and Stephen are close personal friends. Like he spends time in your house, he plays with the puppy and the cats, and you like, you know, like you good friends. Is it difficult in the sense that like when you test knitting, right, you dealing with a lot of issues, like it's critique, right? It's advice, but it's also critique. It's like you could have done this better, you could have done that better. Do you ever find yourself in a situation when you're like, well, but he's my friend, I don't want to hurt his feelings? How easy for you to separate the business from friendship?
it's very easy. We just talk about it. If there's like, and I don't think there's ever been like a huge issue. It's usually just like a typo kind of thing, or like, oh, there are 2 stitches. We are 2 stitches off for something to line up, and blah blah blah. And that's just business, you know. It has to be corrected. Yeah, I don't think there's ever been like a huge, like, you're way off with this and I don't like it and blah blah blah. It's, you know, and it's also not my place to be like his personal critic or something. He has an idea, he writes it down, he passes it over to me. I read it over, and then I find test knitters, and I look at myself as just like, I gather the data,
Right.
and then I pass it on to him. He reads it over, makes adjustments. We send an update. It goes kind of back and forth, and it's really smooth, you know.
Well, you are becoming a designer yourself. You published your first design, you're working on others, and you're working full time.
Yeah.
Are you concerned that like one day you're just not gonna, it's gonna be the choice between your design and working on Stephen's test knits? Like, do you see yourself ever quitting being the test knit coordinator?
I mean, maybe one day, if I, you know, I don't know, but like not anytime soon, I hope. But I don't think my designing is ever gonna like be a full-time thing. I don't see that happening, and I kind of don't want it. I want my steady job to be like my provider, and the knitting is just like knitting and designing and like working for Stephen. That's just more of a passion, and I don't want my income to depend on my passion, you know. I just want it to be like the icing on the cake.
Let's talk about your design. Can you show it to the...
I'm gonna take it off. My design is a cowl called Minster, and it's knitted in the round, and it's basically, the motifs are from old embroidery, mostly found in mostly churches and abandoned, like old, what do you call them? I'm lost in translation here. I don't remember, whatever. Like old rich people's homes, like in the olden days.
Right.
They had a lot of embroidery, like on their clothes and on their tablecloths and wall hangings and stuff. And there's a association here in Iceland that has preserved a lot of them. They have released some books with some embroidery techniques and stuff. And I used to do a lot of cross stitching before I was a knitter. And I used a lot of these designs in my cross stitch. And you could also do this as a cross stitch, like a sampler kind of thing.
Right.
And most of the designs are from those books, but they are adapted. And many of them I also just designed myself because I thought they needed a little bit of a modern twist to them. So I added a little bit of different kinds of elements to the design. And I'm now working on my third version in a lot of colors.
I really, really, really love this design.
It's really fun. It's
also
very
like
fun.
very special because you're bringing your cultural background into it, and it's like authentically you. So I think it's just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, and I made my first like prototype with Rauma Finul, and I love that. It's very rustic. It's a little bit bigger and thicker than this. This is La Bien-Aimée Twist Nouveau. It's a wonderful non-superwash base, and it's really, really nice. And my wife keeps stealing this one. I made this for myself, but she's always like,
We call it boring.
Yeah, she takes it, and like I haven't been able to use this myself in a long time. So now she's getting one for herself.
So sweet of you. Well, yeah. You also very generously offered a discount for my viewers if they want to need this for themselves. So I'm going to put the discount code in the description of this video, and you guys have 1 week from the time this video comes public to go and grab this pattern for yourself and knit it for yourself just in time for the holidays.
Yeah, it's very festive.
I think it's gonna be beautiful, like as a holiday gift. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I know. I saw somebody on Instagram who finished her, like she made one for herself, and then she messaged me and she was like, I have three friends and they all want one for them. So she was gonna make them, you know, for one for each of them.
Busy holiday knitting time.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for all your help with this MKAL this time. And you made it so special because you gave us the glimpse of behind the scenes. You showed my viewers how much work goes into creating this mystery knit along and making it success. And I can't thank you enough for being my guest of my channel.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been very special, being able to, share a little bit about, what really goes on. It's not like, oh, he writes a pattern and boom, Right. There's a lot of work that goes into it, and it's very fun, but it's a lot.
Well, are you doing any vacationing now that the MKAL is behind you, or you already plowing on with all the next pattern and next pattern?
Yeah, I think I started 4 or 5 new tests this week. And yeah, like Steven said in our live, like the hyper knitting collection that just came out, we've been working on that for like a year. So, I mean, we are well into next year with designs and like on schedule. And then there's always like, oh, we'll just, do a little extra here and extra there. And we have a lot of smaller accessories that are ready for publication almost, whenever.
Right.
So
well, I hope you're very, very busy for all the years to come, because I love his creation and, he got a great team.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun stuff coming for you, I promise.
This will be the final episode for the series.
Yes. Cool. Do you consider the success, like comparing to all the previous years? Like, do you feel like it was a successful Mystery Knit Along?
Yeah, overall, it definitely is a successful one, because every year is different experience or different little technical glitches that come up. So there were only a couple tiny errors that got corrected quickly. And there was like a slow update on the final Clue 4 update, but by the end of the day, everyone got it. So nothing super major went wrong. And that's a good Mystery Knit Along year, because anything that really goes wrong, then it can just be a whole avalanche of, oh my gosh, then all the questions come in and confusion takes place. But overall it went really smooth. So I'm really happy with it.
How stressful is it for you, like this whole month of Mystery Knit Along? Because there's so many unpredictable things, like, right, how people gonna respond, if the technology gonna cooperate, and then you have to film all the instructional videos. There's like so many components to that. Are you stressing out of the whole 2 months?
Yeah, there's a lot of stress behind the scenes. So it's like a little duck swimming in a pond. They're just gliding effortlessly on the top of the water, and their feet are going like crazy under the water. So that's us and our whole team here. Especially, I think one of the biggest things is when it all kicks off with the kit launch. And that's really the opportunity to, make things go as smoothly as possible. And then there were months and months of planning to get to that kit launch date. So that's a really stressful day of making sure all the orders come in smoothly and that we get all the packages out on time. So there's a lot of planning that goes into all of that to make it a success. So it's pretty good. There were a couple little glitches this year, but nothing major. So yeah, but I have
difficult for you to like stop that designing process, because you mentioned in our live with Martyn how like you were trying this way and then changing your mind and trying this way. Like, is it difficult to stop and say like this is going to be the shawl?
Yeah, there was a fun moment with this year's shawl where I was designing it as I knit it. So I was planning a bit, but I was still making decisions and choices as it was on my needles. I would try something and rip it out and try something else. And there was a moment where I thought my shawl was done, but then I added another section, and that was the section 10 to the back of the shawl. So this very final piece I didn't have on my final shawl, and I thought that I would just leave it plain and add some like tassels or something. But then I had a lot more yarn left over, and I was like, I think I can still add another beautiful section and still have leftover yarn. So after I thought my shawl was done, I added that final section, and that's when it really clicked into place. And I said, all right, I'm really happy. If I had another month or two, I could always add a couple other sections to it, and it could just be never ending. But there's a certain point where you run out of yarn and there's only so much you can do. So I'm really happy with the finished result.
You know what's interesting? Like, I was freaking out that I'm not going to have enough yarn. And I specifically love that little piece on the bottom, the section 10.
Yeah.
And I looked at my main yarn and I was like, there is just no way I'm going to have enough. So I decided I'm actually going to do that little piece because I really like the continuity and how it attached the whole anchoring of those braids. And I was like, and then I'm going to improvise something on the side sections. I'll just introduce another color or something. And then not only I had enough yarn, but I had leftover yarn. So I keep telling myself that you are looser knitter than I am, because when I watch you knit, you seemed even looser than I am. And I'm a queen of being loose.
Okay. Yeah, my motions are pretty loose, but then I have the tension tight. So it ends up being like a nice and tidy fabric, but my motions are really loose. When you see them in the video, it looks like it's really stretching out. Are
you like freaking out every time? Are people gonna have too much yarn left over? Are people not gonna have enough yarn? Like, is that
from the very beginning of when I'm planning the sections, and I don't calculate and go, this year's shawl is going to be 60,000 stitches or whatever. I don't even know how much fabric that is, but I don't calculate it, but I do weigh my yarn at the end. And I know there's such a variety of gauges that can happen. And even if you have the same gauge, but a different yarn type, that results in yardage issues. And in the past, there have been some mystery knit alongs where a lot of people have run out of yarn of one color. And so I want to try to avoid that at all costs. So I played it really safe this year. So with both of my kits, I had quite a bit of yarn left over. This one had fewer yardage on each skein. So I still had some leftovers, like 20 or 30 grams, which is really safe to have left over of each color. And this yarn, I had about like 60 or 70 grams left over of a color, which is a lot, but I wanted to play it safe because, again, this yarn had more generous yardage. And yeah, I always stress out of, oh my gosh, I don't want everybody to run out of yarn. So I think the biggest issue this year is maybe some people might have a little too much yarn left over if they're kind of matched my gauge, but I always like to have that as an option because people get so inspired at the end to make pom-poms or tassels. So you should have some yarn left over to add some extra customizations if you want to make extra ColourPop cable treatments or add tassels to your shawl. So I felt good about, I don't think anyone ran out of yarn. I hope not.
When you read the comments, when people like say like, oh, I don't like it, it's not for me, I hate it, like negative comments, does that hurt your feelings?
Yeah, a little bit, but I've gotten really good at critique over the last years, where it used to really sit with me and made me feel terrible years and years ago because I wanted everyone to love the mystery or even just any other design. I'm like, oh, I really loved it. But when people don't like it, or sometimes they're really vocal about how much they hate it, I'm like, oh no. So it does hurt a teeny bit, but it's also, I think any cool design that someone really loves, there's going to be the opposite reaction where that's not somebody's cup of tea. So when there is that reaction, to me, that's a sign that it's a design that's speaking to you. It might not be in the best way, but to the other person, it will be the favorite thing they've ever made. But I like there to be that enough specific details in the shawl that will evoke feelings in people and not just be the thing you've knitted over and over again. It's got to be something new. And that means it's a little risk. It's a little bit different. So yeah, but I do read a lot of those and kind of take those and go, I wonder why. Maybe next time I'll tweak some of the techniques and lean them a little more into this way, or maybe make them a little more intricate or more surprising this way. So I do kind of shift some of my choices for the next shawl. But the most important thing is that I just really love and am fascinated by the process. And so if I'm really having a good time, then I think most people are also going to feel that same excitement and energy as they're knitting the shawl.
Well, some of the things that we talked about during live is that some people who knit it are like absolute beginners, like they literally just learn how to knit and they jumping first, you know. Is that part of consideration, like when you doing the videos or when you're designing, to think about like who is your audience? Like, because there are some people who are very experienced knitters who knitted every shawl of yours and you don't want them to be bored. And yet there are people who just learned how to knit and you want them to feel welcome to the community. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I want to be this really beautiful balance of inviting both into the mystery knit along, the really experienced knitters who have been doing 12 of them with me, and we just learn together all these new techniques. And 20 years from now, we're going to be knitting every technique that has ever been done. And then there's always new knitters who have never done a shawl before even. So I want to have things that are interesting for both. And I think the key to me is really developing the videos that, especially this year, I think we did the best job with making the videos as clear and expanded with all the karaoke subtitles. So I really lean on the videos as my teaching tool to really invite the newer knit along members to feel comfortable in what they're doing. And we were talking about in the live how some of my test knitters knit the whole shawl without watching any video. I didn't make the videos when they were test knitting it. So that's like super advanced, where like, how did they figure out where to pick up stitches in the exact right place? But they're just Westknits pros. So there's knitters like that participating, but then there's knitters who have never picked up stitches before. So I want to make it accessible so that they can see and do exactly what my fingers are doing, and then they'll get the same result.
Well, when you did these videos, right, and I was honestly, because it's like my first mystery knit along, so I never watched those videos, I was blown away by how great of an instructor you are, because you were explaining everything like in such detail for continental knitters, for English knitters, English style knitters, for like every way and like every possibility of pitfall. Like you would be like, watch out for this and like make sure you're doing that and make sure you're going on the back of the I-cord and you're picking one side and you're just sticking to it. So there was like a lot of tips in those videos. How did you evolve as an instructor, like in comparison to you teaching back when, you know?
Yeah, I've always been a similar type of instructor that leans on the side of, you can do it. If you mess up, it doesn't matter. You can always fix it. I've never been a really strict teacher, so I've really leaned into my like performance background of making it inviting and engaging and entertaining, just as it is clear and educational. But I've developed a bit more specifics by learning where people might misinterpret an instruction and do something different than what I mean. So that's where the videos really help to show it. But then I like to point out things of, this is a problem that could happen. Like if you miss your increase, then you might have fewer stitches, and then giving people the tools and a solution of how to fix it. So I've really learned kind of where the possible errors might happen when people are knitting the patterns. And then I try to sneak in ways to fix that with the videos. So I've gotten a refined kind of sense of what could go wrong and how to prevent that from going wrong by talking it through in the videos. but it took years and years to kind of develop that kind of sense with my techniques that I use.
What was your favorite part about this year's Mr. Knit Along?
I always love the point, like halfway through the knit along, the energy really changes, where people are really excited and hyped up in the first week, and it's really fun and everyone casts on, but then people take their time. Some people don't get to the second clue right on time, and it's not as a hectic feeling. I think halfway through the knit along, it's like, okay, everyone's at different places, embracing their own pace. And I really like that point where people feel like, okay, this is what's going on with the design. Now I can let go and not follow the pattern too closely, and I can inject my own colors. I really like encouraging people to modify and change the shawl as much as they want. So I really like that spirit of seeing mohair appear and asymmetrical color pops occur, because that's where it gets exciting to see everyone's progress of, I never thought to put those colors together, or, oh, I'm seeing all these 3-color versions, but now there's all these contrast extra pops happening. So I like when people feel permission to have more fun with their knitting process and make it their own.
Well, one of my viewers asked the question that I thought was very interesting. They asked, is there a color palette or color that would be outside of the box for Stephen that you don't feel comfortable with?
I love all colors. I don't work a lot with brown because I used to knit everything brown when I first started knitting. So I think that's something that I lean more into the grays now. But yeah, I love all colors. I've been starting to knit a little more with brown as an accent because it's such a beautiful dark frame and it gives such warmth to the fabric. But yeah, I don't think there's any color that is off limits. I love them all.
Do you have already plans for next year, Mr. Knit Along?
There's going to be one. It'll happen in the fall. It'll be the 14th. So it's going to be the best design ever. I try to make it better every year. So I always say that every year, and that's my challenge, to meet that expectation. It can't just be, a simple shawl. It's got to be packed with lots of different techniques and unexpected construction details. So it's going to be the best design I've ever done next year. And I haven't started it, but
Stay tuned.
I have to live up to that. Yeah, but we'll do it again in the autumn for year 14.
For sure. Well, thank you so very much for being my guest again. I love
I can't wait to see.
And brioche.
Yes. Gee, say hello.
I actually was
asking to see everybody's finished shawls.
I was asking my viewers, one of the questions that I was asking the humans of Westknits, if Stephen got a third dog, what would he name it?
Gosh, so I only have 2 arms, so I have no desire for a third dog, because then it'd just be a slippery slope. Then there would be number 4, number 5. Well, we got Brioche and Stitch. That's a pretty good pair. Garter and Marl would be a really cute pair of dogs. So I can't just get one other dog. I have to get 2 others, but then I would never leave my house. So 2 is my max, but I think Garter and Marl. If anybody gets some dogs and is looking for some knitting names, those would be cute. Yeah. Or maybe like Tink would be a good name for a dog that's like a really like rebellious dog that never follows the rules and is always making mistakes. You could call it Tink.
Pearl?
Yeah, Pearl is a good one. Yeah.
Do you want to know what is superhuman?
Do.
I don't know if this is going to come up. I've nearly finished. I've got this much left to go on the first tip, and I still haven't joined in my second ball.
You are a superhuman.
I don't understand. There's either a massive amount of meterage on this yarn, or I'm a really tight knitter.
Well, I met somebody yesterday. So I went yesterday to Fiber Festival of New England, and I've met one of our fans, and she was wearing her shawl, and I asked her to take it off and show me, and it was like way smaller than mine, but she said that she went on size 3 needles, and she also had like a ton of yarn left.
Well, yeah, so I've done it on the recommended. So I'm on a 3.5 and I just didn't swatch. And I've usually got lots of yarn left over. And I don't know how much yarn is going to be needed in the zigzags.
Right.
But as it stands at the moment, I've just bought in my other main color.
So do you have a plan for it?
No, but at some point, I'm kind of two minds. I don't know. I've still got all my leftover yarn from my other MKALs. So at some point when I've got enough, I'm contemplating maybe like a Vertices Unite type, different sections from, oh, that was shawlography, that was slip extravaganza.
I really like the idea.
Maybe something like that. But like last year, Linda did her socks to match your shawl. So I made socks with my Lola Bean. So I've used up lots of my Lola Bean. But if there's a small Vertices Unite section,
Right.
but like at the moment, I've got enough to make like a pair of socks for Mark and a pair of socks for me.
Right.
So I don't know if I will do socks because I think I've still got loads. So I do like some kind of MKAL themed. I've never made a Vertices Unite, and I know Linda says it's one of her favorite patterns that she keeps going back and back to.
Yeah.
So I need to kind of look at that and work out how many sections is it, and then how many colors could I, even if I just stripe the colors, it'd be like section 1 is 1. I think so. I need to work out what I'm going to do with that.
Can you make one promise to me?
Always.
Can you finish Mark's jumper first?
Yes, although we have had the conversation that I don't think it's going to be finished by December because we're going away it's just over 4 weeks we're going away.
Right.
And of course, for the last month, I've just knit on this. So I've either it's going to take me another week, I think, to finish this. So then that means I've only got 3 weeks till we go away, and I've got to do the front, the sides, and sew the ends in. So I said, look, we need to have a pact. Cards on the table.
Right. Well, let me ask you these questions. Did you enjoy our collaboration, or was I too much?
No, absolutely not. If anything, there's been bits of this shawl. And I was talking to Mark about this morning. I really love the shawl. I think it's a beautiful design, but I don't think this is my favorite to knit. And if anything, the collaboration has given me the impetus to keep going, partly in the beginning because it was Team UK versus Team USA. But then in the end, it was, no, embrace your pace, but actually I need something to talk to you about. And I want to be able to share my progress. And I feel like this with my YouTube channel. I think I've said to you before, my finished objects, some months I don't have any, and I've got like a week to go before the end. And I'm like, what am I going to talk about in my roundup? So the fact that we had the collab meant that it pushed me on to try and finish. And now I'm just firmly Team Embrace Your Pace. I'm representing everyone that hasn't finished. But no, I think it's been super amazing to build that relationship with you and build the collaboration and keep that going. But also then the relationship that we've built with Stephen and Linda. Right. And then all the community feel. It's just been like it's blown my mind. It's been bigger than I thought it was ever going to be. When we did that one direct message exchange on Instagram, should we do something for the MKAL? I never thought it was going to become what it became. Honestly,
me neither, because like I had zero expectation for it, and I didn't even know. I thought like, okay, like I'm gonna need my first MKAL, and we can maybe do a couple lives and talk about like my experience versus your experience. That was the extent of it. Like I never thought it's gonna grow into what it became. And
I know.
I'm like actually so grateful to you and to all the people who like I met along the way, because they made this so special. You know, the fact that like so many people emailed me and said this, yes, I want to be part of that. I want to be part of humans. That was like so unexpected. I mean, even with the humans, right? I thought I'm gonna do one episode and I'm gonna put like a couple minutes each, like 5-6 people, and that's gonna be the end of it. And it grew into this like tremendous experience for all of us, I feel like.
But that's it. You think you've got that many people that have got in touch for humans. You could keep going probably until next year's MKAL interview, which is brilliant. It's that community feel that everybody came together, and there's so much, it sounds really corny, but there's so much stuff happening around the world. It's like, it was nice, like Steve said, there's, you know, nearly 10,000 people all just focused on this thing at the same time. And the other bit of it that I loved was the amount of people that said they weren't knitting, but they were on the journey. They were like, I'm cheering from the side. And I love that as well, because you immediately think that the people that would watch the videos or get involved with what we're doing are the ones taking part. And I love that element of it, that you were ahead of me. So you're like, oh, right, when you get to this bit, make sure. And I was ahead of some other people, and I'm saying what bits that I'd found. So I love that community feel, that everyone was supporting each other and making sure that if we found a neat trick or a quicker way of doing something, that we shared that. But I also love then all the people that just aren't knitting along with it, but still got involved.
Right.
It's just, yeah, it's the proper warm, fuzzy community feel. It's just been, yeah, as I said earlier, more than I could ever have thought it would have been.
Well, what's your impression? Because you've done Vlogtober a couple times before, and we sort of talked about it during my interview with you like last year, right?
Yeah.
What was different for you this time?
I think the size of the community, or the level of engagement, because if I look back over my YouTube channel now, so it's just been like, this year has grown, like we both hit 7,000 in the last couple of weeks, which was just like, wow, amazing. And something popped up on one of my social media memories. I think it was 2 years ago. I didn't even have 500. Oh, I think I just hit 500. So, and it's brilliant because the MKAL, people find me because I'm talking about it and it's interesting to me, so it's interesting to others. But my channel's grown exponentially. But then I think that comes with that is that community feel again. It's like, I'm always grateful to all the people, and there's still people that I talk to now on my videos that were here like when I had like 100. And it's really nice then that you get to know people. It's like, oh, hi, how are you? What are you up to? So you kind of build that relationship. But then you also get all the new people that come and find you. You're like, oh my God, I'm going to go back. I'm going to watch. And I feel like it's just the volume of support that you've had. That for me is different this Vlogtober than other Vlogtobers. And part of that, I think, is the collaboration. And because we've made this big community thing that we're doing stuff on my channel and your channel and Instagram, and we've brought more people together, but also the fact that both of us now have a bigger presence in YouTube makes more people able to find us. And then that just naturally, there's just a volume thing, but also the sentiment is much better because there's so many more people that are just like I just said, I'm not knitting it, but I'm on the train. Come on, you can do it. I'm supporting you from the sidelines, which is just fantastic.
Well, you know what was surprising for me? Because like when we first talked about it, right? That first Zoom when we were trying to figure out how to go live or how to even like whatever. Like, I mean, you and I are like technologically disastrous people.
Well, yeah, actually, for people, if this ends up making in the edit, you think we did that very first, right? It's like, right, I'm going to Zoom you now. And then we're like, how do we go live on YouTube? Because YouTube, you can only go live on you. And so you and I are sitting there. I think you called your son in at one point, and I'm sitting there Googling Zoom. Like, you think the technological things that we've just learned,
right?
Like those behind the scenes stuff that people don't see. But like, this is all new to us as well. We're finding our way. It's like how to go live with someone else on YouTube, and there's like a 20-minute video. Like, I haven't got 20 minutes. Irina's there chatting to me now. I need to know. Tell me what it is.
Well, the funny part to me was that like when we first talked, when we first started, neither you nor I had any idea of what it's actually gonna look like. Like, it's easy to say, let's collaborate between our two channels, but like, what does it actually look like in real life, right? What goes to your channel? What goes to my channel? How do we divide all of that? We didn't have any problems whatsoever, like not once. It somehow like organically happened.
And I think and again, it's nice that the way our channels are really complementary, because I think where we settled, as people have probably realized, is yours is very much the interview. It's the one-on-one. We're sitting down, we're talking about something. Mine's the chaos, chatty, behind the scenes, or the edited of the videos. So you're right. We found that natural groove that you had all the interviews and you had the humans of Westknits, and you interviewed, Linda and Layla and all the other people that have been involved. And mine's just been, let's just sit down and chat. We don't know what it'll look like. It'll all be fine, because that's kind of my channel, but that's where I think we're both really complementary of each other. And actually, I think that's the benefit.
Right. But interestingly, also, I talked a lot about what was happening with you, like all your disasters and all your drama. I was asking the humans of Westknits those questions, right, based on your Vlogtober. So it was actually like very intertwined. It's like you were experiencing something, and I was like, well, is that just Martyn, or more people have tension issues, you know? So it's like there was a lot of actually questions that were based on your Vlogtober that was asked of Humans of Westknits. And you were addressing a lot of things that they were saying in your Vlogtober. So it was actually like very interesting.
Yeah. And I said, I love the fact that you were a little bit ahead of me and go, right, watch out for that. And that for me is the community bit. It's that you're not on your own. And we always say, like, how many people have done the MKAL this year for the first time? Like, you're not on your own. There are literally thousands of people. Reach out if you need some support, because there's people here to help you. But one of my favorite memories of the whole collaboration is obviously we've got the time difference. So I'm in the UK, although it's 3:15 as we film this now. I'm not having alcohol. I've got a coffee, so I can't drink in every episode. I think in every time you've spoken to me for the MKAL, I've had wine in my hands. I'm like, no, we'll stick to a coffee. But obviously we've got the time difference. So 3 o'clock now in the UK. What time is it with you?
It's 10 because we changed the time again. So
oh yes, but I love the fact that I wake up in the morning and you're asleep, but I wake up to a random message and you're going, I'm going to do the Humans of Westknits. I'm going to get people. I'll see if anyone wants to be interviewed. And as you just said, it'll be one video. And then a couple of days later, it's like, I've got this great idea. I'm going to do a song. Can you sing it? And then a couple of hours later, then when you'd woken up, you'd obviously thought about it. Like, no, I know this guy. He's a great singer. I'm going to get Stephen to sing it. And I'm like, okay, brilliant. But I love that, almost that time difference, because I'm waking up. You've had this flash of inspiration. And I'm like, okay, that sounds good. Yeah. And that, as you said, it kind of just grew organically, that we didn't know where this was going to go. We didn't know how this was going to happen.
That song is honestly like, it's probably like one of my favorite moments, that we got Mark to participate, we got Stephen to participate, we got Wes to participate, and Linda and Layla and everybody. It was like very fun to put that video together. Yeah.
But you think how long ago that was? In reality, it was like 5 weeks ago.
Right.
But that feels months away. Like there's been so much in the interim, including, spoiler people, the actual knitting, which I still haven't finished. I'm nearly there on the first tip. But you think we've done that much,
right?
We've had that much activity in the last couple of weeks. It's just, yeah, the parody of the singing feels months ago.
I mean, are you gonna feel sad that now that it's all over?
A little bit. I said in one of my, we do need to talk about next year. But I said something in my Vlogtober wrap up about I'm going to have a couple of weeks of a break now. Although I'm going live, we'll be live with Stephen on Friday, so it wasn't that much of a break. Right. But for me, it's I need a bit of a break for November to catch up on the shawl and to catch up on some other things. Like I've still got 3 of my top birds to do, which I want to get done before we go on holiday. But for me, on my chatty channel, we're straight into Vlogmas. So it's all down for Advent. And I'm like, it's nice now that we'll have a little quiet November. Then we'll have Advent. And then, yeah, who knows what next year will bring. I'm already like, oh, I want to do that. I want to do this. I think we can do that type of a project. And so I started speaking to some people about some things that we can do on my channel next year. But it's like, take a breath.
Yeah, I'm ready for a little. I'm ready for a little break. And like.
But tell me, how did you find the mystery? So I know we touched on this briefly when we spoke to Stephen and Linda, but now you reflect on it, now you finished. How did you find that mystery element? Because I know that was one thing that you were like, I'm going to want to jump ahead. I'm going to want to I'm not sure where it's going. I need to know. How have you found that?
Well, the thing is, if I didn't do the Humans of Westknits, then my expectations might have been true. And I would have some time when I would be done with knitting and I wouldn't have anything, like I would have to wait for the next clue to come out. Yeah. I didn't have that because of the Humans of Westknits, because it was every week I was posting 1 or 2 episodes of Humans of Westknits. I was doing like so many interviews, and the editing for Humans, it just like, if my regular editing is twice the time of the interview, the Humans is like at least 4 times the time. So just like organizing everything. And the funny part, like what people see is the 10 to 15 minute segments, whereas in reality, I got to know like almost every person for like,
Yeah.
we would talk another hour after the interview was over. So it was brilliant, but it was also like so time consuming that I didn't have any downtime when I was sitting and waiting for the next clue to drop. It was like really, Stephen kept me on my toes basically.
But see, that's the thing for your channel, is how easy you make it for people to, because it is just a chat. It doesn't feel like you're being interviewed. It's just like, tell me about this, tell me about that. What do you think? It's so casual. You're so casual, and you make it feel so natural that, and I think that's why we've got on so well, is that I did my interview over a year ago now, and then we stayed in touch on Instagram, and we kind of talked about a few different things. And then I think it probably was at the beginning of the year, like, oh, we should do something for the MKAL. And then it just, it's just blossomed into this.
Like a lot of people commented that they watched my channel and they watched your channel, and they're like, you are such an, uncommon couple, basically. It's like we would never put you two together, but it felt like we've been friends for 100 years. Like it really felt easy. Like there was never any moment when we had like any tension or anything. Like it was just like super easy, the whole thing.
Yeah. And I think that's where, for me, one of the successes about all the things that we've done and how it's developed, that it's just happened quite naturally, that it hasn't been really regimented. Because you think the very first Zoom live that we did, when like an hour before, or the day before that, we joined in, like, right, what are we going to do? Oh, let's do a poll. How do we do a poll? I don't know. Right. We'll just jump on and we'll work out how to do a poll. I think that makes it feel more natural, because it wasn't over-engineered. We didn't have a regimented plan. We knew roughly we would do something on my channel, then something on your channel, and we kind of split some of the things, but we've just let it develop naturally, which I think feels more genuine. It certainly feels more genuine to me, that it hasn't felt forced. So as you asked at the beginning, how did I find it? I think that's why I've had so much fun doing it, because it has just been like chatting to you, chatting to my mates, and just seeing where things go. And you had a good day? Yeah. No, actually, this is really stressing me out. Right. What did you do? Like, I voice noted you last night. I need to rip it back. And I ended up ripping back 2 hours of knitting because I was running out of stitches. I was like, this isn't right. But that community feel of having people on hand to support when you get stuck.
Well, let me ask you, like, I've been talking to a lot of people, and like I ask a lot of people, have Stephen changed you somehow? Have Stephen made you a different knitter, or have Stephen made you a different designer, like depending on who I'm talking to, right? And then I start asking people, have Martyn made you a different knitter? And the reason for that, because I feel like you made me a little bit different, right? So like before meeting you, it was all about like, you start the project, you finish the project, you concentrate on one project, and you're not doing anything else until you're done. And then after watching your channel, where it's like, today I have 12 whips and tomorrow I have 16 whips, and well, what are we gonna do to make me feel better? Let's cast on something else, right? I'm not at that level yet, but I feel like I am embracing my pace. I am more relaxed as a knitter. Like I don't see it as like I have to get to the finish line to enjoy it. It's becoming more process knit, and I do have more than one project on my needles, and those projects that just sitting there, they're not looking accusingly at me anymore every time I pass by. Have I changed you anyhow?
Yeah, because I think, again, to me, it goes back to some of the things that like Stephen says about say yes, don't stress, and how you just embrace things. And I think the way that you've always, you started with, no, I just do one project, but you're like really open-minded and really forward and like, no, yeah, I could adapt. I could do that. And I think that sort of, I'm trying to think of it's like the open-mindedness. It's like, no, this is me. I just do one project. You're like, no, actually I can go, I can change. I can think about things differently. I think it's that mindset that you're open to kind of try new things, whether that's working on multiple projects or doing your first MKAL. It's like you said, you've done others, but you wait until you've seen all of the clues, then decide, I want to make that, and I'm going to make it all in one go. I think just the way that you've approached some of your projects now, I think I kind of want to still have that same kind of growth mindset that, you know, you can be open to things and don't be really regimented. And I think that's the thing I got from Stephen. And I know he says, say yes, don't stress, kind of on a specific project. So if you're not sure about brioche, just jump in. If you mess it up, you rip it back. But I think I kind of take that say yes, don't stress approach to just in general with my knitting. So it doesn't stress me out that I've got 16 things that I need to finish, because something will call to me. It's like, oh, right, I'm going on a long train journey. Right, I need that sock. Or right, I really want to do some color work. Right, go and grab that jumper or whatever it is. I think I always try to have multiple different projects. And it is just that it'll all get done at some point. I'm not going to go crazy. I met a friend of Linda's at the Unravel Yarn show in the summer. She came over to say hi, who's got like 80 whips. And I was just like, oh, no. That's way too many. I think even I would draw the line at that. But for me, it's about having lots of different types of projects. So yeah, I think from your, what I kind of picked up from you is that open mind, is that you can try new things. You don't need to be afraid of them. You can adapt as a knitter, because we all go through changes. Right. And you can't, you know, 5 years ago, you might be, nope, I'm a 1 project person. And now you're a 10 project person, 5 project person. But we change and we kind of embrace that.
Right. Well, when I talked to Stephen, I asked him, does it stress him to make it bigger and better next year, right? Like, because he said it himself that like the next MKAL has to be the most spectacular MKAL ever.
Yeah.
What you and I am gonna do? How are we gonna top this?
I don't know. I have been thinking about that. It's like, obviously this will happen again next year. As long as both of us want to take part in the MKAL, then we'll do the collaboration. I don't know, you could come and live in my house for 5 weeks. I'll come and live in your house for 5 weeks. You know, that would be different. I don't know. I've been thinking about that. But then I've also something that I'd said a bit earlier on is it grew organically. We didn't force it. We kind of like, what about that? Oh, that's a brilliant idea. So I feel like this isn't a cop-out, but next year we'll know what it's going to look like, because we'll be in a different place with what we're working on, or what time we have. We'll have had different experiences in the next year about, oh, that kind of format, that would be a great thing to do with the MKAL. So I feel like it absolutely needs to be bigger and better. I don't know how we top it. Maybe more lives, maybe more Zooms. I don't know. Maybe it's just more of the same.
What are you guys?
But with a few little tweaks.
Do you guys have any suggestions, any ideas? Throw it our way. Like, let us know how we can
absolutely
bigger and better next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I said short of living with each other for the next 5 weeks, you know, for the 5 weeks of the MKAL. Although I'm not sure I can keep up. You are a speedy knitter. You know, I was like, right, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it. And then by the you finish week 1, and I know I had a bit of a handicap for week 2 because I had my purling issue. And I do say, if I hadn't had that issue, because I had those 2 nights out with work, I lost 2 nights of knitting, but I lost a whole day of knitting because I had to rip that section out. I had to re-engineer. I'm making excuses. But at that point, I was like, oh, I can keep up. I can get back. Right. It's going to be week 2 is going to be Team UK. And then the things happened and it wasn't. And then I was just like, no, right. I'm not stressing myself out. It's only knitting.
Well, you know
Team
what? I must tell you, like, with the fact that you had that orchestra competition, with all the work that you do, with all the Vlogtober work that you do, I was actually blown away that you knitted as fast as you were able to knit. So my hat is off to you.
Oh, thank you. But I'm lucky that I do, with my video, the Vlogtober ones especially, I try to edit as I'm going. So like if I'm standing in the coffee queue and I filmed a mini segment the night before and I did a quick segment in the morning for work, I'll just try and nudge those together, because popping the video footage in takes seconds. The bit is the edit, putting the music over the top. It's those types of it. So I try to do it as I'm going. So even though I've been knitting and working and doing the Vlogtober, each of the blogs, I try to only let it take a couple of minutes at a time. So I'm not then spending, like you said, you know, you'll sit down and you'll chat to someone for an hour. It could take you 2 hours to edit it. I try not to film too much that I then need to spend a lot of time. Like the third Vlogtober one, I think, or the second one, when I went to Ali Pali to the yarn show, I had that edited and starting to upload to YouTube before I met Mark for dinner, because I did it on the bus. So as I'm going around, I sat there over lunch and I had a coffee and I did the first bit of footage, and then I did the second bit, and I sat on the steps of Ali Pali talking, doing the conclusion. But I tried to use my time productively. So I think one of the humans, the lady whose name I'm very sorry I've forgotten her name, was resonating with what I said about get up in the morning, try to break it down into manageable chunks. You know, don't think I've got a lot of knitting. It's a little bit in little stages, and don't let it overwhelm you. I try to do that with everything, and then it's just being efficient. So 10 minutes before work, 15 minutes after work, 3 or 4 minutes, you know, don't get annoyed that the coffee queue is really long because you're in a rush. Just, well, there's 3 or 4 minutes that I can edit a video, and just try and find little bits in my day to make things. So then I'm not coming home and then saying to Mark, I need an hour because I've got to go and edit a video. Sometimes that happens. But I try not to let it happen that much. So I want to then come home, spend time with him, we'll have dinner, and then I can just knit, and I haven't got to worry about the blog things and all that kind of stuff.
What was Mark's impression of our collaboration?
I think he's been properly on board with it, and I think it's been really interesting in the comments. Loads of people are like, "Hi, Mark, how are you?" Like we've joked now, he's like a recurring character. Whether he's popping in, he's not here now at the moment, so he's not going to pop into this video. But whether he's like, he pops in over my shoulder like he did with Stephen and Linda to see Linda's shawl, or he popped into a couple of our videos, or just in the Vlogtober. I think he's not too chatty. So I'm the chatty one, obviously. I can't see him. It won't become a joint blog. He doesn't like it that much, but I think he's embracing a little bit of fame then, because people are like, oh, it's Mark. I'm like, yeah, he's here. And in Vlogtober, he did a lot of bread making, and he got a lot of love for his sourdough bread. So I think the whole thing, I think he's got a bit more comfortable in front of the camera. But as everybody knows, if they watch my channel for a while, you know, he's like the chief enabler. He'll find me patterns and has no fear about how complex it is. He just sends and goes, can you make this? Yes, maybe. And they just get added to the queue. But it's not, you know, he's super supportive of all of the things that I want to do. Sometimes he rolls his eyes. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, it'll be brilliant. And I'm often the big picture yellow. It'll be fine. It'll all be great. The extrovert, and he's the quiet introvert. He's like, right now. But if you're going to do that, how are you going to do that? And I'm like, oh, yeah. So he keeps me grounded.
Right. I would tell you that I'll miss you, but I know that I won't, because we were constantly in touch anyway. So it's been a tremendous pleasure to collaborate with you. I could be in better company. I had the best of time this whole 2 months. All our communication about it, all our little disasters with technology and everything. And I want to thank you for doing it with me. I really loved it.
No, and it's the same for me. It's thank you for, you know, being my sidekick co-host. You know, it's a team game. We did it together. And I think we said earlier, the fact that we've got complementary channels, but they're different. It's not the same content on both channels. I think that when you think about collaborations, you have to think about what's in it for the other person as well as what's in it for you. And I think because we've got that complementary channel and that complementary style, it works so well. And yeah, I've had the best month. It's just been so much fun. We will still speak in a couple of weeks, because obviously you've not done your big reveal yet, which is my fault because I haven't finished.
No, don't blame yourself. I'm just waiting for you patiently on this. Well,
I know you're just hello, I haven't. What's going on? Where's the shawl? I'm hoping I'll get finished this week. I'll definitely finish this tip and then start the next tip tonight. And then Mark's away for a couple of days now this week with work, so I'll have a bit of maybe a few late night. I did that in week 1. I think I did 2 a.m. finishes. So it's like, and then you beat me anyway. But no, we'll definitely be back in touch, and we'll do something else. I'm assuming now, we're saying this live to you, we'll do something else. It won't be a year before we're back together. There'll be something. Even if we just do like a quarterly sit and knit live, or a Zoom, or, you know, we'll just something.
I love that idea. If you guys have any other ideas of what Martyn and I could do together, write it in the comments. And thank you all for all your support, for all your love, for all your comments, for being subscribers to both of our channels. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you know what to do.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you from me to everybody that's watching and commenting. And yeah, big thank you to you for being here on this crazy journey with us.